Ladies and gentlemen, this is the New York Times. Anti-ICE tactics by volunteers and so-called patrollers who track and follow immigration agents in caravans have only intensified in the Twin Cities. This is the New York Times talking about how this is a resistance and essentially championing what potentially is lawbreaking. You can't follow. It is not legal to follow ICE agents or law enforcement officials, state or local or federal, to impede their work. That is not a legal form of protest. You can't create a situation where the law enforcement official is stressed beyond belief, stressed out of his mind or out of her mind, and you can't create a situation where, God forbid, tragedy can occur. And then it's, we had whistles, they had guns. Yeah, the whistles and the yelling and the insulting and the tracking is meant to impede law enforcement work. It's not meant to, that's not a First Amendment protected speech to follow law enforcement. Imagine in your city, what would happen if you followed, God forbid, a law enforcement vehicle? That law enforcement vehicle would lead, the officer would come out and likely arrest you. So it is not free speech. This is DHS. Radical rhetoric by sanctuary politicians leads to an unprecedented 1,300% increase in assaults and 3,200% increase in vehicular attacks. So President Trump has stated he's ready to implement the Insurrection Act. This is an organized attempt, not at free speech, but almost certainly at doing everything possible, everything humanly possible, to get in the way of federal law enforcement officials without local judges and courts and police commissioners thinking that it's violent. So the Democrats, when they look at the 6th of January, they say, oh my God, look at that violence. They don't tell you, nor do they show on MSNBC, that hundreds of people were being let in peacefully into the building. Also, nobody states that that's legal. Of course it's illegal, and it's not a First Amendment right. It was terrible what happened on January 6th. Absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. The problem is that what Democrats do is championed by media, and it leads to chaos, mayhem, and hitting an ICE agent's car is not legal. That is also illegal. To say that, well, we didn't storm the Capitol, so therefore, but there was billions in property damage. Minneapolis still hasn't rebuilt since the riots 5 years ago. And I agree with people peacefully demonstrated, but they still haven't rebuilt. And blocking the road and, yelling and screaming and getting into the faces of these law enforcement officials, it's not scaling a wall. Yeah, I get it. But you're approaching not only illegal behavior, but also violence and assault. And you're deliberately making this situation chaotic, so that somebody, God forbid, could be caught up in the mayhem, lose their life, and then you could say, oh my God, it's ICE's fault. This is President Trump.
If the corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE who are only trying to do their job, I will institute the Insurrection Act. Many presidents have done this before me and quickly put an end to the travesty that is taking place that in that once great state, writes the president. The president also posted about a federal judge declining to block ICE operations.
If protesters don't want ICE, here's the statute, 8 U.S. Code 1227. Democrats can repeal or amend that statute. They're literally simply doing what happened under Biden. Deportations by ICE jumped to a 10-year high under Biden. Orphaned by deportation. Okay? This is President Obama, 2014. Orphaned by deportation. Families were being torn apart under President Obama. Inhumane treatment, solitary confinement, 2024. Biden administration has failed to reverse the Trump administration expansion of immigration detention as abuses in ICE detention continue. Rights groups oppose President Biden's expansion of ICE detention. And now fast forward, how ICE crackdown set off a resistance in American cities. Okay. This is, again, leading to chaos and mayhem which is why you can't track protesters. That's completely illegal. You can't track ICE agents. It's completely illegal.